Hello, everyone, and welcome to Jump Up Supercast, the only podcast on the internet that knows the exact precise value of the Canadian dollar at this exact moment in time. I'm your host, Will. Joining me today, Moozamil.
You know, the Nintendo Switch just dropped price in Canada, and I'm concerned about the Switch.
Brandon.
That's a lot of monies.
Noah.
Oh, Canada.
Noah.
Can you not hear me?
No, I cannot hear
Wait, that
you.
was your comment? Really? That's how you're going to introduce yourself? Damn.
He talked. He said Canada, don't change.
And
It's like
Saf.
Canada, don't they?
You know what? I'm not going to even say anything then. I'm just going to say that. That's it. Fuck it. If Noah can't try, then I won't.
Jesus.
What a weird start to a podcast.
Great start.
How you doing, boys?
I'm doing just great. I'm in the great state of New Hampshire, actually.
I was about to say, this is a little unique podcast.
I can look at Brandon and Noah in the eyes as I speak
True.
to them.
You could?
Yeah.
Are you within arm's reach? Could you touch them right now?
Yeah, I'm touching Brandon right now.
Right
Oh,
now,
baby,
you're
that's-
touching
You're not supposed to say things like that.
But you can look Brandon and Noah in the eye as he ranks Melly higher and higher up in the list.
Not doing this.
Oh,
yet.
that
We're
won't
saving
happen
it for the
now.
list, okay? We're
Oh, dude,
not-
I'm actually concerned for my safety when it comes to the list this week.
Brandon's picking the list, so get excited. But yeah, that's exciting. I mean, like, normally Brandon and Noah are in the same house, but normally we're all far flung across this great earth. But look, a majority of the Jump Up Supercast is now in one room. See if you can tell the difference. Meanwhile, me and Saf are still alone, just in a sea of nothingness, forever stranded on this sad ship that we call life. It's fine. We'll make it one day to that holy land of New Hampshire.
The holy land of New Hampshire.
It is a pretty great land.
I'm loving it, genuinely. This state is a beautiful, beautiful state. It's great.
Is the tourism board right now? We getting paid for this?
You can learn more.
Is this an ad? We have to label it as
Visit NewHampshire.com.
well, besides, of course, the great state of New Hampshire, how's everyone doing in the land of video games this week?
Oh, fantastic. I'm back to playing games again. E3 got me in the mood. It's like, yeah, I want to play games.
You want to play games? Why wasn't Nintendo's about to die? We did it.
Which, it's strange. I'm on a game podcast. I don't play games. It's a very weird thing.
Don't worry. I get it.
You're kind of bad at your job.
You're kind of bad at your job. That's very
Us
funny.
here on the game club, we play games every week.
On a regular basis.
We're always playing games.
We
There's
gotta
a
be.
reason why I'm not on it, though.
But yeah, so I mean, I guess we should get into the proper format of this podcast this week. I don't want to make this observation too much, but news weeks after E3 sort of slow stuff. But there is some interesting things I want to get to going on this week in the world of not video games themselves, but the industry that surrounds it. So right before, basically a couple weeks before we ourselves started this podcast, there was several things that happened with relation to Star Wars, right? Early on in the podcast, we talked about Battlefront 2, the loot boxes, that whole controversy. Before even that happened, there was a whole thing where EA got the exclusive rights to make Star Wars games, if you recall, at the start of this generation. And then one of the games that they had, one of the little feathers in their caps that while they were making all these bad business practices, they said, don't worry, everyone, you're still going to show up because Amy Hennig is making a Star Wars game. Well, the news is that Amy Hennig is no longer making that Star Wars game.
God damn.
They canceled it back in October, and now she said today she is gone. Deuces, the game that she was making is on the shelf, is not coming out again. And she's going to make an indie studio, which is actually exciting. Good for her. She clearly has a mind for writing video game stories. And she said that she may be looking at VR, which, maybe a little late on jumping on that boat, but good luck to you.
Well, I think at this point, VR is less of a hey, I want to do big budgeting. It's more I just want to do what the fuck I want.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's what this
I
is.
think with VR, especially with this game, but like I feel like nowadays, like a lot of things, like obviously it's not the big seller that a lot of people expected. But I do think that there's a lot of companies out there, a lot of creators out there who are like, you know what, like I just find this tech personally interesting, and I want to do something with it. You know,
and
because it's a cool, it's cool technology.
Yeah. And it's also a not an extremely crowded market, you know, like with indie games, there's just so many coming out a week. Like I go onto the PlayStation website, I go onto the Nintendo, like here's all the downloadable games this week. They do that every week, and every time I'm like, there's no way you could feasibly play all these games, you know? But like if you're out there and you're like, hey, I'm making a VR game, there's like a couple a week, right? So if you have someone out there that's looking for a VR experience, maybe there's people out there looking for it.
Sorry, go on. Sorry.
No, sorry. I'm just like naturally, I'm excited for what she can do because I think that like the biggest benefit of VR is like environment and like immersion. You know, like gameplay wise, you're not going to be getting as deep an experience, I think, from a lot of VR games. But there is something about looking around in an environment and seeing scale and seeing scope. And I think that you look at a game like Uncharted 2. That's one of the things that game is good at. You know, it's just like creating an environment that you want to sort of take the time to admire.
I was about to say, my main concern is like VR hasn't really taken off in the way that a lot of companies expected it to. Have there been anything exciting about VR that's happened recently in terms of gaming?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's the one, right? I think that like VR truly needed, I mean, like in the same way, because it's not a jump like from 2D to 3D, but it is a pretty big jump, you know? Yeah. And whenever you have those big jumps, you need a game like a Mario 64, right? For like 3D gaming, where you're like, this is what this new thing can do. VR doesn't have that one game that you point at and say, this is it. This is like a revelation of an experience, or a thing that you truly couldn't get without having VR, you know?
It's like, well, Super Mario 64 is not, this is what 3D should do. It's more, this is what 3D should feel like.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, I don't think there's been a VR game that it really is, you know, so mind-blowing that you play it and say, this is what VR really should feel like.
Yeah. I mean, and, like, there's still neat stuff along the way, but you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because that's my main concern. Is, like, she left Naughty Dog just so that she can...
Except for VR chat. But.
She wanted to do...
Including VR chat, which is perhaps the great...
That's really a system seller right there.
I mean, it kind of is. Like, actually...
It's genuinely cool, but it's just fun.
Yeah, no.
No, I was going to say, like, she left Naughty Dog to, like, do her own thing, and she had a good gig with Star Wars, which just kind of crashed and burned. So I was like... Yeah. I'm hoping that VR isn't going to be another one of those things that's going to be an unsuccessful...
No, I mean, I think this is clearly a sentence of, hey, you know, I'm going to do something smaller and more just, you know.
I mean, she's going indie. Like, that's the territory that she's...
Like, financial concerns is not as big of a deal. You know, you're not dealing with fucking AAA publishers or anything. So it's like,
bullshit,
I'm just doing my own thing. I'm doing what I want, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe that's good for her. Especially, I mean, spending, like, the last 5 years of your life on a project that gets canceled, that kind of...
That sucks.
Yeah, it truly does. I mean, I think that we didn't get to have this conversation when it got canceled, but now that truly the books are written and closed, the project's on the shelf, and she's not there anymore, I think it's time to have a conversation either about just EA's management of Star Wars and how, like, it's truly been awful.
It's been a fucking dumpster fire. Okay? Because it's like, Star Wars as a brand is the biggest it's been in years, you know? Like, the sequel trilogy is hot, you know? Especially when Force Awakens came out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
EA has had this license for how long now? Like, just right about after Disney bought Star Wars?
Yeah.
And we're already, like, 4 films into this, right? We're 2 films into the sequel trilogy. All we have to show for it is 2 Battlefront games. The first one, which did pretty well, but was, you know, kind of critically panned because it lacked content. And the second one, which was a fucking PR disaster.
And also underperformed sales-wise.
And underperformed sales, yeah. And we have seen nothing else. And, like, these Battlefront games are, like, you know, let's be honest, like, I don't want to, you know, shit, like, on DICE's efforts too much, but, like, it's not that hard, I feel, probably, to convert from Battlefield to Battlefront for DICE, you know? The fact that we've seen nothing else, and they have had many studios working on Star Wars projects, like Visceral, which we just talked about, this game that got canceled, you know? Like, they've had They have so many fucking studios, and yet we've only seen 2 Battlefront games. Like, that's real disappointing. Like,
But that is the actual studio's fault, or is the publisher?
It's fucking EA.
Yeah, it's EA.
I'm
Yeah.
saying, like, it's embarrassing for EA as a publisher that they've had Star Wars license for this long and they've done fucking nothing.
Yeah, I mean, like, Star Wars 1313 was happening, you know? Like, that's another one that, like, we forget about, but, like, people saw that game. Like, that, it was out there, and it's gone. That's a game that was about, if you don't remember, was, like, a bounty hunter game. It was really announced right during the start of this gen, and EA canceled it when they got the rights for Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's just been this thing where... And it's a bigger problem with EA overall this generation, right? Where, like, EA's obviously had a very bad press cycle, but, like, they always had, for a while, they were like, listen, you might not want to see the Madden at E3, you might not want to see the FIFA, but baby, we got Mirror's Edge, we got the new Mass Effect, we got the new, you know, the Amy Hennig Star Wars games. Every single one of those games we can now say has been a bust. Right?
Yeah.
Like, not a single one has, if they've come out, they've been disappointing or they've been outright messes. Like in the case of Mass Effect Andromeda, if they don't come out, then they get canceled, like Amy Hennig's game. Like, why is there any reason when we see that Respawn man on stage this year talking about his game, why should we believe this game will come out and why should we think it'll be any good?
Well, just a quick note, I wasn't even on stage. They fucking took a microphone to the audience, and they were like, hey, you're working on Star Wars, right? Like, yeah.
It was so weird.
It's so weird.
Ugh.
Like, you have to, I mean, like, I don't think they announced when the contract was signed how long the exclusivity rights would be, but you have to think that Disney is looking around, right? They have to be aware that
Disney can't be happy, because, you know, Star Wars video games should be making a shitload of money right now.
They should be the best sellers. All the time.
Yeah.
Easily.
And I want to be super into a Star Wars game. I want to be, but I don't trust EA.
I mean, because it's such a cool universe. Who doesn't want to be immersed in that in a way like nothing else you can, like in a video game, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I want to be in that universe. I want to play games in this awesome franchise. But EA is fucking it up on every level, you know?
Fucking it up hard.
I hope Disney is looking around, because EA has just been disappointment after disappointment when it comes to Star Wars.
It is strange that Star Wars games are at a lower point now than they were, like, when The Force Unleashed came out in 2008, you know? Where, like, nothing was happening with Star Wars, and even, like, The Force Unleashed debuted at #1 when it came out, you know, like, it was a sales success, and there was, like, regular Star Wars games coming out during that time frame. And now when the biggest, most successful company on the planet Earth in terms of entertainment has the rights to this company, Disney, and they're having new movies coming out every single year, doesn't even matter. Like, the games are just not there, and, like, it's crazy. It's crazy that you screw it up that.
Like, it's not even like it's bad games. It's like games that they just don't exist. It's just Battlefront. That's insane.
Yeah, it's like
it's weird.
Force Unleashed was like it wasn't decent. It wasn't that good of a game. It was just kind of okay, and it still was #1. So, like, EA has done a lot to fuck up, like, Star Wars in terms of the game space. So they've generated a lot of good badwill in relation to that. So I kind of expect them not to have any other future holdings on Star Wars at all. It would be a genuine surprise if they do, but I expect it's fun. Else.
Moose, I remember as soon as the Moose said back when we were talking about E3 stuff a couple weeks ago, and Moose said something to the effect of, "No company burns through goodwill quicker than EA." Mm-hmm. And, like, it's true. Like, they're incapable of making people feel good about them. It's been the story of their life for the last 15 years, and, like, they seem to have no interest in changing it, you know? It's so strange.
Them pressed to the partnership.
But yeah, so I guess good luck to Amy Hennig, Star Wars. Amy Hennig, you know, and her game. Sorry separate from Star Wars. Sad that game didn't happen, and, like, EA executives, get it together. So that was the whole thing. One other little headline that came out last week that sort of got me just thinking about this topic in general. So, do you all know the show Westworld?
Yes.
I know of it.
I know of it. I know the premise.
Okay, yeah. So Westworld is a big show on HBO right now. People are watching it. They, of course, as will happen now with shows, there was a mobile tie-in that was like a Westworld where you like manage the town that and stuff. And then it like came and went. People were whatever. Fans played it, and I assume, who knows. But when I saw someone mention it, I was like, this looks a lot like Fallout Shelter, like incredibly like Fallout Shelter. And then I read the headline, and I said, Westworld game developer in trouble for stealing from Fallout Shelter. And I was like, oh, is this like a concept thing? No, it's by the same people that made Fallout Shelter, and it just straight up stole lines of code from Fallout Shelter. Just straight up, here's the stuff that makes Fallout Shelter work, here's the same thing. And you know how people recognized it? Because it had the exact same bugs that Fallout Shelter had.
That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
I kind of heard about just... Surely the developers would have known, like, hey, Bethesda would not have... Bethesda owns this code, you know?
Yes.
Surely they know that. Surely they know that if Bethesda finds out, they're in big trouble.
Yep.
You know? I don't know how this... How did this happen?
Yeah.
You know? I mean,
And
that's easy to imagine how, cut corners, but, like, yeah, like, you can use the idea, you cannot steal code. You know?
When you work for the company, they own that.
I think it was clear that they were trying to pull fast. It's like quick and easy, cheap buck that they can make in regards.
Yeah, like, hey, Warner Brothers is gonna pay us for this, so fuck it, let's just like...
I do love that the company Bethesda that's infamous for having bugs at launch with their games, the bugs ended up paying off in the end. The bugs helped them in the long run. But this got me so that happened, and then later this week. So are you guys aware of Donut County?
No.
Nope. Not at PSX.
It was at PSX last year. That was the big time that it got a showcase. It's this game where you play as a hole and you move the hole around and things fall in the hole. It's got a little bit of a Katamari vibe to it. It's by one guy. It looks neat, charming, good. So there was a game that was straight up the look, the gameplay, everything essentially of Donut County that premiered on the App Store. It came out before Donut County came out, and it was number 1 on the App Store for the last 4 days. And the guy who was making Donut County was like, what is happening? How do I... This is like clearly an obvious ripoff. Like, how is there any way to like have a conversation about that with Apple or anything? And the answer was there is none. And so it got me thinking.
Copyright
overall,
anything?
Sorry, what was that?
I think it's just a pain in the ass for like indie devs to go out and reach to like big companies like Apple, because Apple doesn't give a fuck.
Yes, they don't care.
You're one little guy. Like if it was Nintendo, obviously Nintendo could go to Apple and be like, hey, like there's this fucking obvious Pokemon ripoff. Take this shit off, right? But
They did that.
yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
But like one little indie guy, he's gonna have a hard time finding even someone to talk to, you know, to even who the hell do I even address this to, you know?
Yeah, and that's the
like,
thing. Is that
Yeah.
it's hard to explain. Like, I guess that's why I want to have the general conversation about is like, one, it's sort of just a thing that we've all come to accept that there will be these like mass ripoffs on the mobile space. But I guess the question is there any way to fix it? Like one, like, do you think it's a big enough problem to need addressing for these people? And if you do, like, is there any potential path forward for this?
I mean, it's hard, especially dealing with a store the size of the App Store.
Correct.
You know?
Right? Because there are
Size of
hundreds
the
of
store.
games uploaded
There's
today.
Thousands.
Yeah.
You know, every single fucking day. Like, thousands of apps are, added onto the store. It's impossible to properly curate. It's impossible to properly... and obviously, like, you know, like I said earlier, like, big companies can easily be like, hey, take shit down. But other than that, like, I mean... How do you curate a store like that?
I remember that there was I remember that there was a legit YouTube ad that was advertising a Pokemon game that wasn't published by Nintendo. That there's some actual Pokemon clone that's been represented.
Yeah, it was something that looked exactly like Pokemon. It's like, how the fuck does this get the...
Yeah, how the fuck does it get
it's
ads
just,
on YouTube?
Yeah. But I guess the answer is just at that scale, it's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible to police
I mean,
it.
the biggest, to me, the most egregious thing, have you guys heard of the game? It's 3. There's a game.
I was
called
about to bring it up. 3s and 2048.
Right. 2048.
Yeah.
2048 is literally the concept of 3s, but it's fucking
They
mad,
just
right?
changed the number.
But with different numbers. The goal is different numbers, but it's free to play. And then 2048 making way more money off. And threes did not make nearly as much money as compared to 2048.
Yes.
That's sad. That's super sad. That that guy came up with a brilliant gameplay idea, and someone just immediately steals it, and what can you do?
It would be better off just to release it on platforms where they can't just steal it as easily.
No, but even then, they can still...
it's hard because, like...
Yeah, they can still make mobile versions and try and get as much money out of that.
Like, you'll just
can, but like,
version in the mobile ripoff, right? Like, Donut County, is going to be on PS4. It's going to be on consoles, but, like, a bunch of people have already played what is essentially the game, but, like, probably not as well made. Like... on their phone, and that's the crazy thing about it, is that like there's no way. I mean, I guess at some point maybe you should ask. Like, Apple's a huge corporation, right? Like, they are, and they're making money on every single purchase that's made on the App Store. At some point you have to have some level of like expectations for them to be aware of the things that are on the store that they're managing, you know? Like, I don't know.
I get that.
It's hard because it's like, how do you legally prove that? It feels like one court case will suddenly could potentially mess up the entire
Well, it's
store,
also this thing also that, like, even if you took it to court, right? Like, I don't think a lot of DJs could fucking afford a lawyer.
No.
You know?
Yes.
Like, that's just the reality of things, right? Like, even if something like that happens, it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, I don't have the money to fight this. Like, I'm using up all my money just to finish up this passion project of mine. You know?
Yeah, that you spent the last 3 years investing in.
And we're not even talking about, like, international law. Like, we're not even going to explore that, because that's going to be even trickier. Because you're going to have to get... Like, you're going to be subject to whatever country's laws, copyright laws are. And you could just potentially deal with a Chinese developer where Chinese laws in regards to copyrights are a little more lax for Chinese-based companies than they are for...
They play fast and loose.
A lot more. Like, have you seen the games they throw out there? Like, all the Chinese rip-offs of, like, Overwatch and different popular games?
I saw the top 5 grossing mobile games for the month of May. 4 of them were Chinese games, and each of those games were fucking rip-offs.
Yeah.
You know? It was like a League rip-off, a Mario Kart rip-off, a Clash of Clans rip-off, and like one more thing.
Was it like a Battle Royale rip-off?
Yeah, Battle Royale. I like the last one. Fucking Battle Royale.
Of course it was.
Yeah. And it's like the games that are making the most money in the world right now are fucking Chinese knockoffs.
Well, that's the thing. Like, China doesn't allow, like, other games, like, from PlayStation or Nintendo most of the time, so they don't have anything. So, of course, China being a huge country and so many people want games, that you're going to go nuts over these things.
Yeah.
Guys, we should quit this podcast and move to China and just, like, make rip-offs and, like, become millionaires.
Seems like
We should do that.
Where the money's at.
that's where the money's at, yeah.
I'm gonna make lewd Chinese products.
Ah, baby. Well, I mean, like that, I guess that's the thing. It's like, it's hard because, like, I think it's worth talking about, but like, there is no good answer to it. You know, like, there is no.
Yeah,
like,
I mean that's the harsh reality. Of it.
I guess the
Hopefully
thing
it'll
is, like, if
change
you
in the
see it,
future.
say something, right? Like, just like if you see a ripoff, be like, oh man, this is bad. Like,
If you
this
see
is a bad
something,
thing.
say something.
Like, also, what real power do big publishers have? Like, we mentioned Nintendo, but like, do actual publishers have that kind of power to like get rid of as many knockoffs as possible?
Not all of them, not just because there's so many of them. But,
Yeah, it's hard.
Like, you see
If there's a huge one blowing up, you can have that conversation, right? But like, I mean, I remember this happened when Flappy Bird blew up huge, right? Was the creator being like, there's just so many ripoffs of this game, which, I mean, like, Flappy Bird was like a very easy to imitate game in and of itself, you know? But like, it was. I remember the creator, him being like, I mean, he just dropped off the planet.
Flappy Bird did the warp, like, it looked like the warp pipes were like straight out of
Oh, they were up out of Mario. That's the thing too, right?
They definitely
He
were.
stole like the art style of the Mario warp pipes, which is like one of the 2 things in that game. But then people ripped off those warp pipes, so it's like a rip off of a rip off. It's like covering a cover of a song. It's like, what are you doing?
It's so weird to think about, too.
Yeah.
I always thought that, too. I'm like, not only is Flappy Bird a weird, like, they're ripping off sprites from Mario, but now all these people are ripping off Flappy Bird. And Flappy Bird has, like, an official, like, arcade release and stuff now, too.
Yes.
It does, yeah. There's a Flappy Bird arcade.
Oh, that's wild.
Dave & Buster's, like, has a Flappy Bird.
Just a big button you press, and it makes the bird
it's
fly.
just a big bite. And as far as you get like, tickets.
Yeah. I mean, that seems like a fun arcade game.
But there's Mario Warp pipes in that game.
That's-
Mario.
How the hell? Yeah.
Nintendo could literally just sue them up the ass.
Well, I mean, how
It's Sprite
do
World,
they
yeah.
have like a?
And it's a different shade of green.
There's a different shade of green.
It's like the Wizard of Oz. It's genuinely that. Is that like you can have the Wicked Witch of the West, but she cannot be the same shade of green she is in the original movie. It's like actually
Yeah.
the law. So I mean, it's that. But yeah, so I guess I just wanted to have a conversation about it, and that was interesting. We sort of, man, mobile games are weird.
Yeah.
Like they're huge, but they feel both like they're the biggest thing in the world, but also like really low rent and like it's a strange.
They're the
place.
biggest shit in the game. That's in the world. Yeah.
That's one way to phrase it.
Like I think the word that comes to my mind is pathetic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for most of them, because there's just so much crap that you have to filter through,
Yeah.
and it's just there's so much awful stuff. There's great stuff out there,
Yeah.
but it's like you're filtering through a friggin' the dump.
Yeah.
Like you're going to the dump looking for gold.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I guess it's a little bit off topic. It almost feels like Steam is going that way.
It almost feels like Nintendo eShop's going that way.
Yeah.
It's basically
Like-
every marketplace, right? It's
Yeah,
just
I
like,
guess it's just like it's so easy to make games now. It's
Yeah.
like, and it's just like, and it's good that the platform holders are making it easier to
Yeah, sure.
But like
Quality control.
I feel like we need some sort of quality.
Yeah,
control,
We
right?
definitely do.
yeah,
Yeah.
or
Hire
at least
us.
a way to highlight the quality, right? Because there really
Yeah.
isn't a good way to do that.
That too.
Give more
Especially on
attention to the
eShop.
quality.
And
games,
every,
yeah.
like okay, maybe it's like everyone who can make a Switch game now can go ahead and do that. But maybe Nintendo should have a bigger focus on let's highlight these games that genuinely.
Yes, I mean,
No.
Steam's a little bit better, right? You can go to the main page and it has all the features.
I don't know, but have you
So-
seen fucking Steam? It's fucking
Oh,
awful.
I haven't been. I guess it's been a
No,
while.
Steam is actually I feel like Steam is the worst storefront right now.
Oh, wow.
Because
worse
it's,
than the Apple Store and the Google Play.
it's a load of shit. Like it's like
Yeah, they've been having trouble with that.
I forgot what I was looking for. There was like a major indie release like not too long ago.
Yeah.
I could not fucking find
On,
out
like,
on
new
the
releases?
new releases or anything.
Yeah.
I had to manually
Yeah.
search it up.
I
So if I
mean,
didn't know what that game was, I would not have found it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, I mean I had that problem with the summer sale. I was like just trying to find a few select games. So I was like, are those games on sale? And like the format of finding those deals was impossible. Like I couldn't. I had to like moosed it. I had to manually look it up. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, there was just the observation from an indie developer about Steam where like there was a period of time where if you were on the recent releases on Steam, it was like at least a day that you were
Yeah.
there, right? Or like within like a couple clicks you could get to your game. It is now a time frame of 2 to 3 hours. And so like if you
Christ.
just don't have a way to highlight, if you don't have a way to like really, because the game, because also they've gotten so algorithm focused on Steam where like, there recommendations for you based off what you've been playing, what your friends have been playing, all this other stuff. It makes it hard to find games that just came out because they are not in the algorithm yet. Like it's perpetuating games that are big, and it makes it hard for games to actually blow up, to become big, right?
So this is an argument that we might need to consider as well then, in this instance. It's like, why don't we just... Because curation, like, the marketplace can get so big that curation would be difficult. So why don't we just take the opposite approach and try and limit it more?
No, I don't think that's right. I don't think you should increase the barrier of because I understand it, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like who is someone to judge the quality of your work?
Yeah.
Like is it even worth putting?
Yeah.
I mean, like-
because then
that's
you
fair.
could contest because then you could feel like if some random guy at Valve, for example, just feels like I don't think this game is gonna really whatever, right?
Yeah.
He denies you. That fucking sucks.
Well,
I mean, I think that there's a space, there's a right space, right? And I think that like as much as the eShop itself is bad, I think that the Nintendo sort of entered a good space with it because they were known in the Wii era for being just impossible to like have a conversation with about getting your game on their storefront,
Yeah.
And then in the Wii U era, they took the policy of whatever you want, baby, just upload it. Here's Meme Runner, everybody's playing Meme Runner.
I love meme
Like here's just whatever, games that are barely finished. And like now they still have that on the eShop, but they have like the Nindies spotlight, right? And stuff like that I think is
Well, I
good.
think the Nintendo specifically, they've been doing the Nindies showcases, right? And they've been genuinely showcasing games that like not are necessarily too well known,
Yes.
I think it's genuinely like Damon Baker, the guy who's
Heading it up.
heading up third-party publishing relations, and so he obviously deals with indie stuff. And I think genuinely what it is like Nintendo's getting these submissions. They're looking at, hey, like this actually looks pretty quality. They're noting it down, and these are the games that they're showcasing, you know?
Yeah.
And then, so we see that in the indie showcases. I think that's really cool, but I think they need to do a better job of making that clear on the
actual storefront.
itself.
Yes.
You know?
I agree.
Like when I go on to, because we're all hyper engaged, you know?
Yeah.
We watch, if Nintendo's airing an indie showcase, we're going to watch it, right?
Yeah.
But, and if we see an indie game in the direct, we'll probably take note of it. But if, for the more casual consumer, you're just browsing on the eShop, Shovel Knight looks the same as Meme Run. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
They get the same amount of spotlight, and there's not a way to show like genre or like types of games that you might be interested in either. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like every
There
single
was a
storefront needs to be
feature
revamped.
that I read about. I can't remember if it was an actual feature or was an idea, but Steam was going to suggest, or was thinking of suggesting, there was going to be a program where if you were going to upload a game, you would have to pay like a small fee, like around $100 or something.
Sure.
And after a couple of months of sales, if they see that the game actually sold and is doing well, they would give the money back to the buyer,
So
the guy who
it's like
uploaded
a
the
safety
game.
deposit.
Yeah, it's like a safety deposit kind of thing. And I thought that was a decent idea because that will discourage the people that are just out for a quick buck and don't want to actually put in effort to risk it, like only there to make a quick buck and just upload a game and see what happens, like
Right.
steal.
Yeah.
So, and like the people that actually want to like invest and like take the chance to make something good are more willing to pay that fee.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be a good approach.
Especially because like $100, like that's not too much of a barrier. Either.
It's not a huge barrier, but it's enough to stop the people. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I totally get you. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that seems like a decent idea to me.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I think it would have to be
I don't-
paired with an effort to pare down the number of releases, period, right? Because like I think that like you just see a lot of Steam games that might not even make that. I mean, they would probably make $100 back, but like I think that's a good idea. I like that, but I think that like that paired with a system where like games are the games that are posted are highlighted for longer, and there's more of a chance for discoverability. Is like the good combination, right? Of like gatekeeping, but if you're there, you get support from the storefront.
Yeah. Because I mean, like, I do think Valve needs to do a better job of like, hey, first of all, looking at the fucking content that's getting on their store, right? And
50 million visual novels,
if they see some cool little idea, I think they should do a better job of highlighting it. You know, get those indie creators.
Yeah.
Because how many people look at the store Steam front page every day?
Everybody.
Right?
See, it needs to be like an art gallery, like where video games are art, right? So you go to an art gallery and you're gonna see these people who are art judges are really good and have a keen eye for it. They're gonna pick out the best pieces and showcase them to everybody.
Right.
And you're not gonna have some guy who just got into drawing who's barely good at it, just trying to make a quick buck and gonna throw some crappy artwork, and they're not gonna showcase that. So there needs to be that kind of situation with like the front page.
Yeah, and I think it really just comes down to I don't think Valve wants to pay people to do stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
I mean, I think that's the catch in all of this is just like it doesn't matter if the games that are selling on their store are garbage or really good. They're getting the same percent of cut either way. You know.
I think Valve, as a storefront holder, has a responsibility to do that.
It's a bad look.
I agree. Because I mean, like the hard thing is just like, especially with Valve, I mean, versus like a Nintendo or a Sony or a Microsoft, is that like it's very rare that a game will not come out on PC as well as other systems. You know, like if you're making on PS4, you basically may as well just put it on PC. You know, like that's essentially where you're at. And so like they more so than like like Nintendo or the guys at Sony. Or the guys at Microsoft have incentive to try to get these companies to like want to stick around on their platforms or like make sure they're being developed for their platforms. Valve has no incentive to do that, right? They're extremely hands off. Yeah, and that sucks because that's just the nature of their market.
But I mean, I have a whole other
to.
issue with Valve altogether, but that's not for this podcast.
But yeah, so I mean, that was actually a more expansive topic than I thought we would get. That was good. We want to be able to buy good games, I guess is the long take of it, and like it's harder to buy good games now than it should be.
Yeah.
You know.
Just as a consumer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess one last little thing I want to get to, and then we'll make a transition to the list. So a game came out this week that I was thinking about. I was thinking in my brain about it because I thought it was neat. Which is, tell me if this name sticks, if you remember where this was. The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Yeah.
That
I actually haven't played it.
I want to
I
download
completely
it.
forgot it was a free download, to be honest with you.
So if you don't know what that is, The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit is a game set in the Life is Strange universe, right? And it's essentially like a side story, maybe prequel to Life is Strange 2.
Well, they
It
should
just
have
came
said
out.
it's a prologue / prequel to Life is Strange 2.
Yes. And it's just came out this week, and it's free. It's straight up free. All of it is. It's not too long. It's about 2 hours, right?
Wow, that's a pretty lengthy.
Yeah, but still, I mean,
question.
yes.
Does it have achievements?
That's a great question. I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure that Xbox and PlayStation games
Require it, right?
Require.
So if I can get 1,000 gamer score for 2 hours of gameplay, I mean, I was already in, but I'm definitely in now.
Well, fuck, that's an easy 1,000.
So like, but it got me thinking because I thought, man, this is just so cool, right? Like, one, it feels like a nice reward to the fans of Life is Strange because Don't Nod made Remember Me. They've made a few other games prior, but like Life is Strange blew up in a way they didn't expect and was huge, and so they sort of said, well, you know, like the audience has been kind to us. Let's be kind back. Let's just have this chance for people to get a thing for free if they want to just like, you know, just have a little taste before the bigger thing comes out. But I think it's also neat because it's essentially, in some ways, I mean, it's its own game, but it's kind of a demo for Life is Strange 2 in its own way, right? It is a free introduction to this world, to this environment, to this whole scenario and this type of game that Life is Strange and the what's the full title? The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit are. And so it sort of got me thinking about just like demos, right? And the place that demos have in gaming right now, because it's weird because they're still there, but they're different. They've changed over time. You know, there was a period of time, and so I just want to like take a look at each of the different forms that demos have taken and sort of ask like what was good there, what was bad there, what could we potentially take forward into now. And I mean, the first and foremost, the thing that was just, it was a demo disc, right? Was just you would get a demo disc from a magazine, put it in your console, and there would be 40 or 30 demos. Sometimes it would just be a video, but that was how.
What kind of demo discs did you have?
Yeah.
The ones I had like maybe
7,
10 at the most. No,
Nah,
yeah,
dude,
you know
there
what
was
I think
some
of
that
when
were
I think of
huge. I
that?
remember. I was like, man, well, maybe I'm misremembering. As a kid, I remember
You're
getting a
probably
demo
thinking
disc.
They had a lot of videos.
Yeah.
Maybe like 30 videos.
With the-
10
I watched the
demos,
videos because I was a dumb
And
nerd.
they would present them equally, you know, like
Yeah.
whether it had a demo or a video.
Yeah, you'd be on the
it just-
PlayStation demo disc, clicking through them, and you're like, "Oh wait, I always want to play this game." You click on it, it's a video. And you're like, "Oh."
I remember I would get angry. I would like I would just reset the system at that point so I wouldn't have to
I don't
watch
wanna-
all the way
God
through.
damn it, I don't want to watch the video. I remember Pizza Hut giving out demo discs.
They
back in the
did.
day. That was the shit. It was
Yeah,
like in
dude.
the 90s, if you got like a stuffed crust pizza, you get a demo disc for it, and there was like, I think like 5 different ones.
Yeah.
I
And so
remember.
they'd give you a random one.
I remember as a
awesome.
kid, I would trick my parents because what I would do was, because they did a thing where like, if you read a book and you have the thing where you show that you made an A on your report card or whatever, you get a free personal pan pizza. at Pizza Hut. And I would go do that, but then at the same time, I'd be like, do you have a demo disc I could have? And they'd be like, sure, kid, here's a demo disc. And I was like, I didn't know he's got a video game. I was really pleased with myself at like 6 years old.
Do you remember the demo disc for MGS2, Metal Gear Solid 2? That was that.
I was going to talk about
Yeah.
this next, right? Which is like the ones where they use a demo to sell a game.
Which like you buy zonal vendors and then you could get MGS2. And
Yeah, so they did
Final
this.
Fantasy has a history of this, right?
Yes.
Where fucking, like FF12 demo, was it 12 or 10? Whatever.
It was 12 and it was on
With
Dragon Quest 8.
right?
Yes, that's how I
Yeah.
played Dragon Quest for the first time. Was I wanted to play FF12. And it turns out I ended up liking Dragon Quest more than I ended up liking Final Fantasy 12.
Wow.
So that worked out.
And then Final Fantasy 15 did it with Type 0.
They did. And
Zero
then
HD.
Halo did it with Crackdown, where you got the Halo 3 beta.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that's actually, I think they should do this more. I think that, like, the idea of, like, if you have a game that's coming out and you're worried about if it'll be a success or not, and you have a bigger game coming out down the line, instead of having the pre-order be for the beta, throw it as the thing if you buy the game. You know, like, I think
I mean, like, if you're a major publisher and you have IPs that people are really excited about, right?
Yeah.
And you're releasing this game that's not as well known, you know?
Yeah.
You use your other big IPs to kind of...
Like, yeah, what if Breath of the Wild came with an ARMS?
ARMS is a lot more popular, you know?
Yeah. ARMS comes with a Mario
That
ARMS.
would be fair, because you spend hours upon hours on Breath of the Wild. You'll never get to the ARMS demo.
It would be. I mean, here's the secret. I think I might have played the FF15 demo more than I played actual FF15. Oof. I played that demo like 10 times. I played it a whole lot, dude. The weird thing too with that one was they like updated it. They updated the demo multiple times. Like they're like,
just like the full game.
Yeah, they gave us a little preview into the full game with that. But like, I mean,
think
like, if
the
you look
demo
at
I like the most is the demo, kind of like with the Adventures of Captain Smiley Face Shirt or whatever it's called.
there you go, Captain Spirit. Yep.
A similar thing, Captain Spirit. Similar thing here is Dead Rising Case Zero.
That was the other one I was going to bring up. I thought that would be
the same thing.
I thought that would be the standard going forward when that happened. I remember.
Yeah,
like sold well too.
It was great. It was you had to pay for it, but it was like a prequel, a short. Yeah. It was almost exactly like a demo for Dead Rising 2.
It was straight up like a
prequel.
whole.
It set up the game.
Yeah, and that's a really neat idea.
It was like $5. It was, it was real cheap.
Yeah,
it was
MGS5 did it, but it wasn't as fun because Ground Zeroes was fucking $40.
Yeah, it's a different.
Luckily I got
$40 is very different.
Yeah.
I can't believe that was a thing.
The full MGS5 experience.
Yeah, but I got them both for free, so I just waited a couple of years.
Also from Kojima. Another one that's worth mentioning. You don't think of it as being a demo because the game never came out, but PT.
PT,
like PT might be the ultimate form of a lot of this, right? Like just like you didn't even know it was a demo for a game until it was too late. Until you were like, Norman Reedus, what are you doing here? You don't have a fetus yet. Well, you will eventually, but this is Silent Hill? What? Like there is I think that there is, I mean, this happened with Resident Evil 7. Do you remember Kitchen?
Mm-hmm. That was great. That Resident Evil 7 demo was very good.
Yeah. I mean, like, before we knew it was Resident Evil 7, Kitchen, which was this VR game, was toured around for a whole year. People saw it a year before we knew Resident Evil 7. And then the night of, play the demo, right? Like, here it is. And they updated that demo multiple times, too. Like,
I remember that. They kept updating the Resident Evil 7 demo with, like, different endings and stuff.
Yeah, and, like, hints towards the main game. And, like, I think that was neat because it's, like, it's using the leverage of modern technology, right? Of like when you put out a game that the demo disc can't be updated, right? The demos that are there are stuck there forever. With these, you can like if development improves and you change something in your game, you can put it in the demo. You can let people know that like progress is happening. You can maintain excitement for the game for longer and longer by updating that, which is exciting and cool, right? And so, I mean, I guess I just kind of just had fun going down memory lane, but I think that like it's underutilized. I think that like if you have a game that you are worried about, a demo can change the whole narrative of it.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, like Octopath, right?
What was the Beautiful Joe demo on? Piano 3, I think it was.
Yeah.
Piano 3 for the GameCube is underrated, by the way. But Piano 3 had a fucking Beautiful Joe demo on it. And that, man, I was like, I would play that demo over and over again. I'm like, I cannot wait for this.
Yeah. And I think there's something to like the bite-sized experience. You know, I think there's something to like a 45-minute experience that you have from beginning to end that makes you want to go back to it every so often, right? Like, it'll be a month and you're like, let me go play that again. Let me just run through that demo.
I got into Fire Emblem because of that Fire Emblem demo. You know? That it let me play the first, I would say the prologue and the first chapter, right? And it was just so incredibly well done that I was like, I need this fucking game. You know, I didn't know that I would like Fire Emblem before, but trying that out, I was like, I'm super in. I'm so into this. And now I, you know, it's at the point where I spent a ridiculous this amount of money
On
on
Fire
I mean, and like a similar game for me at least was like Bravely Default and Octopath, right? Like both those games had big demos. Bravely Default was a whole separate scenario. Was the fun thing about that you could?
Yeah, that one was cool, right? Because it wasn't even in the game.
No,
right?
that was a whole
demo.
unique experience. That was the demo.
Which is really neat. Which at Octopath, I like that they do this. It's kind of like the final demo, where it's just the first
3 hours.
game.
Yeah.
And it's cool because you get to pick. 3
hours.
Here's just 8 of them. Pick one of them. 3 hours. Just go, baby.
Yeah, it's a timed 3 hours. You can play up to the first chapter of each character. But you only have 3 hour total limit.
Okay.
But
you transfer
that
straight
same
progress.
data transfers over.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. Where you say data transfer.
So it's like whatever you did, like you're ready to play when July 13th comes out. You're not doing that again. You know,
I like that,
you already
yeah.
played it. Yeah, just jump in from
I
there.
think
That's very
there
good.
was some other situations like that
Do
too.
you know what's the worst part of like the 3DS demos? Is that there was always this fucking limit of how many times you have to play it. Yeah.
The uses? Seeing them slowly go
those
down
were
was so
dumb.
stressful. I was so stressed when it got to like 5. I was like, do I want to blow the use? I'm just never going
The
to quit out of this
Bravely
game.
Default demo, I
never.
never switched off because of the fucking use limit.
I'm glad they stopped doing that.
Yeah.
It was good.
Remember DSi demo the DS demos where you go into a store like GameStop and you
that
can
was so
download a demo.
weird.
And once you turn off your DS, it's gone.
It's gone.
But yeah.
But the download play was a pretty cool. I mean, because this was the pre-internet age.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, obviously you could connect to the internet, but like consoles weren't disconnected as they were before.
Yeah.
That was a very interesting distribution model.
It
Because like
was.
you could play on your own console. You know, like you didn't have because I mean before the way you play demo was you'd go into a store, right? Now you're going to a store, but you take the demo.
Demo. As long as you don't turn your console off.
Couldn't you do like McDonald's too? Like it wasn't just stores; it was like other weird partnerships that they would have.
Maybe.
Nintendo had a fair amount of download play partners. I don't remember exactly who they were.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I
And
remember,
see,
I
the
remember
thing-
reading
the
it when
cool
I was a
thing
kid,
is-
being like, what?
Nintendo, he's a Nintendo YouTuber. He actually has a full collection of all the DS download play like carts.
really?
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
so like how it worked was they would put it in a DS and it would just be set up as a download, like sending out the signal.
Yeah.
So that's how it worked. And he has the entire collection. I'm like, that's so
fascinating.
cool. That's an awesome thing to have.
Yeah, I saw one of those in real life at like a local game store where he got that like while he was just going around, and like it's like you said, like they would just broadcast from that one main one. But I mean, I guess what we're saying is, don't bring
I
demos
think if you have
back.
confidence in your product,
Yeah,
like put a demo out.
yeah, put a demo out. It couldn't.
Put a playable experience, some sort. A demo, a prequel. I mean, I get like doing that kind of stuff is actually more expensive.
Yeah.
But it gets exposure to your game, and it works out well pretty often. Like I think Bravely Default, you can say a lot of its success probably was due to that demo.
Yeah.
And that goes for a lot of stuff, right? So it's like if you really truly have confidence in your product, I do a demo
And
play it for free.
be creative with your distribution, right? Like
Yeah.
stuff like we mentioned, like with like Crackdown and with Zone of the Enders. Like if you have a big game coming out, you have a beta. Don't just make it like the pre-order bonus. Don't just make it like a weird closed beta. Like make it something
Open beta.
unique. Like help out the rest of your games by leveraging this one game that there's interest in.
I'm glad that Nintendo stopped doing the weird. If you remember the Splatoon and the art,
For an hour long.
they were like,
Some shit.
you play for an hour, come back 6 hours later to play for another hour,
Yes.
then come back 6 hours later to play for another hour. It's like that was so fucking stupid.
Yeah, it was very dumb.
With Mario Tennis, though, they got rid of it. It was just like, hey,
This is just the
here's
weekend.
the
Just
weekend.
play for the weekend.
Knock yourself out.
Yeah.
And I hope they continue, especially for Smash coming out.
yes. Please.
They have a Smash version.
But oh man, yeah. Well, the Smash demo was a Club Nintendo bonus. I remember because I didn't get the code Nintendo code, so I went on to NeoGAF and begged for a code in the thread
Oh, on 3DS.
on 3DS.
Eventually they made it for everyone, though. It was just early access.
It was just early access, but I remember just the stress of being like, I want to get that code. Come on.
I got the code the day.
Wow.
I think you could give it to a friend or something. I don't
Yeah.
remember, but-
Oh, yeah.
But that was fun, man. I'm having fun now. That was a fun discussion.
I want to go out and play a demo.
But now, guys, not time for fun anymore. This is not the time for fun, everyone. This is the time for serious, definitive deliberations.
Business.
Bring out the
talking
knives and the
about-
guns.
The
I
list.
can physically fight Brandon in military.
You can lunge
Are you
across
sure?
the-
Yeah, I was about to say.
I'm definitely losing that fight, just to be clear. But
So it is time for the list.
Yay, the list.
Last week we added Nier. Oh baby, we added Nier, right? Did well for itself. Old Safi brought it to the table, specifically Nier Replicant. I guess we need to clarify that. This year we are bringing, or not this year. Once a year we add to the list. No, this week we are bringing another game to the list, and that person who's bringing us the game is Brandon.
Woo, it's me,
Brandon.
Hello.
Brandon. I'm here. All right, well, I've thought about it. I've had a while. It's been a while. I feel like it's been a while since I had a game on the list. And there's a game I want to talk about.
Oh.
This is a game I don't like.
Uh-oh.
Oh
Oh no, don't do it.
no! I'm excited.
Sonic and the Secret Rings.
Oh,
Okay. Well done.
It's not the direction
Okay.
I thought you were going.
All
right.
But, okay.
Was that the one where he's a swordsman?
No,
No,
that's
that's
the
Sonic
one
and
where
the Black
he's
Thing, but
on-
it's part of the same
Part of the same series.
storybook trilogy that only got 2 games.
So for those
Black
who
Knight
don't
did
know
so
what
bad
Sonic and
that
the Secret
there was
Rings
yeah.
is, what is it, Brandon?
Sonic and the Secret Rings is the first of the storybook trilogy, and I say that with air quotes.
Every time you say it, it hurts.
that Sega decided to start off with on the Wii as the first big Sonic adventure on the Nintendo Wii. Nintendo's big, huge, successful system at the time. The thing was selling like crazy. So yeah, this was the first Sonic game on the Nintendo Wii. The first, I think, 3D Sonic after Sonic 06. So that he had to, try to.
This is the comeback, baby.
So it had to try to prove itself. Sonic 06 was, as almost everybody knows, one of the worst games ever.
It is the lowest spot on the list.
So I will say Sonic and the Secret Rings is better than Sonic 06, and I think that's the only good thing I have to say about that.
Yeah, Sonic 06 put the bar very low.
They did. Brandon, how do you control Sonic in this game?
So in this game, you control Sonic with the Wii Remote held sideways.
Oh, so you
And-
use the D-pad to move then, right?
Oh,
You don't use the D-pad to move at all. In
Oh?
fact, Sonic is on rails, auto running. You move Sonic by tilting the Wii Remote left or right
Uh-huh.
and flicking it to jump,
oh no.
thrusting it forward
Oh,
to
my.
do homing attacks.
Uh-huh. How do you slow it down?
This was
No.
before Wii Motion Plus, an early Wii game. You can already imagine how
Oh,
bad this is.
no.
The controls were super unresponsive, did not work well at all.
Uh-huh.
Sonic ran at the beginning of the game at a snail's pace because in order to be faster, you had to keep playing the game and level up Sonic
It's true.
to unlock
RPG
speed.
elements.
Sonic game.
Oh.
In a Sonic game!
Fucking Christ! You should not unlock speed.
Yeah.
It's Sonic. That's
You
his
had
thing.
you grab you got these little orbs, these energy orbs. You had to spin on abilities like Sonic won't
Yep.
slow down when he touches the ground from a jump. That was one
Sonic.
of the power.
So to keep Sonic moving faster and to increase his what's the word for it?
His top speed.
His top speed and his to go
Acceleration.
acceleration. There we go.
Yeah.
Shit, that word.
Don't worry, we caught it.
But like, he had to increase his acceleration. Like he would just start off so slow, and like that for a Sonic game is just not okay. It's not a Sonic game. It's awful. So and on top of all of that,
Uh-huh.
it had unresponsive controls. It had piss poor level design. It had an awful camera and like the most boring, uninspired, unoriginal story I've ever seen.
So I wanna-
and-
Oh,
Oh yeah, Sonic game. No. 3D Sonic
Well,
game.
but no, but this is like
a 30 Sonic game to me.
No. I want to go into the story because so you said it's a storybook trilogy. What does that
Yeah.
mean?
So the characters were randomly based off of storybook characters. It wasn't
wasn't
Arabian Sonic.
Nights.
Sonic got sucked into a book, and all of a sudden, the Arabian Nights, and like Tails was like one.
He was
character.
Alibaba. I remember.
Alibaba, yeah. It wasn't Tails. It was Alibaba, but it was Tails.
What is
so.
this?
Fucking hilarious.
It's just Tails wearing a turban. That's all it is.
I think I might like this more than
No,
this
it's
is hard.
the worst thing.
So this was in the era of like people didn't know what to do with motion controls, right? It was like brand new,
Right.
And so what they would do is they would just map traditional button stuff to a fucking stupid motion, right?
Why, though?
Rather than doing something like unique that you can only do with motion controls, it's just like, hey, instead of pressing left and right, you're tilting left and right. Instead of pressing A, you're shaking the remote.
I mean, it's cool to like try to press gimmicks onto people. Like, it'll be fun for a second, but only if they do it right. Like, if
that's not doing it.
It wasn't done right at all.
That's not how you do a motion.
Actually, I
control.
have one other good thing to say about this game. The graphics were pretty decent. It looks nice.
I remember the CG opening when I was 13 being like, this is so badass. But not aged well.
The in-game graphics look pretty decent.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And there are a couple segments that seem cool. Still doesn't control well, but it seems cool.
The other thing too is that Sonic's rings are constantly going down because he got cursed with this fire in his belly and he's gonna die. So you have to be picking up rings or else you'll die. But
you can't because you're too slow, so you have to.
Yes.
Oh my Jesus!
Yeah. So it's a whole mess.
It sounds like a giant mess. Holy shit!
I mean, I had fun. I had fun talking about Tails in a turban. But where would you put it on the list, Brendan?
I would put it number 34 below Blinks the Time Sweeper.
But above Paper Mario.
Above Paper Mario?
I feel like this game.
I would do that. I feel
I believe it should be below Sticker Star.
The way you're talking, this game seems like it doesn't fucking work. Like just straight up, like
Brandon and
It brings more frustration than fun.
Yeah, like a game that, like, first of all, just the concept sucks. Right, you're going on rails with terrible level design. So you're not having so you're not having any fucking fun, right? And then you add this terrible level design with terrible controls that don't work. When I want to go left, I'm not always going left. That's a
problem.
Left, but not as fast as you want.
Sure,
it's not like you.
So then you tilt it more, and then it goes way too much.
So that that's not good. Like that is all the way through. That's not a good.
That's not that puts it really low.
There was multiplayer, by the way. There was multiplayer mini games.
I understand your issues with
How?
Sticker Star, but like at least Sticker Star functions.
Yeah.
This game does not seem like it functions.
Like, yes, it was an insult to all the other previous Paper Mario games, according to you guys. But
I mean, it functions. It just doesn't function well.
But it works. Like it's a game. It's like you can get some enjoyment out of it, but
I don't.
It's a difference
But
between.
we didn't even mention the fact that Make Believe Reborn plays non-fucking stop.
Oh, baby, it's so good. It's so good.
And for some reason, this track not only is it cursing me during the game, it keeps showing up in Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Good.
That song's playing all the time in that game, like non-stop.
I'm just
during the loading screens, during the bonus stage, everything. It's just
really? It's just like one track?
the menus, everything.
Some of the songs in the game are nice, though,
level.
actually, genuinely, but...
I mean, I can't remember. When my head was in a pillow screaming half the time, I don't remember.
Right. Yeah, from what it sounds, it's horrible. I'd put it below Paper Mario.
It's
just everything about it is bad. Like the music's worse, the character designs are worse, the story is shit, the gameplay is shit. There's no.
I mean, the Sticker Star, the gameplay is at least it's shit, but at least it's not.
There is no aspect of this game that is better than Paper Mario. And if you break it down completely, there's when you compare it, gameplay, graphics, etc., there's nothing about it that's better than Paper Mario at all. It's just monumentally worse.
No. Objectively, it is worse than Paper Mario.
It is, but can I counterpoint?
I know.
Okay.
Knuckles?
Tails in a turban.
Knuckles the Echidna is Sinbad the Sailor, and that is very good.
Okay, maybe if he was Sinbad the comedian, you would have got me.
Yeah.
But he's not
My
Sinbad
favorite
the
thing,
comedian.
I wanted to make note of this too, because I mean, we're putting it below Paper Mario, I think. Is my favorite thing is that they're like, oh, Sonic, you don't get it. They don't actually look like Knuckles and Tails. Your brain just can't perceive them, so your brain makes them look like Knuckles and Tails. Which makes no sense. What are you talking about?
That's what it is.
Sonic can only imagine other people as Knuckles and Tails. He cannot look at them otherwise.
It's too hard.
Oh God! No! Oh, boy.
We went places.
There we go. That is our final thoughts on Sonic
Wait,
and
Sonic's
the
a
Secret
secret
Rings.
racist?
It's coming in at number 35 on the list.
35.
Below Paper Mario Sticker Star, but above Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. The bottom two games are both Sonic. It
I think
hurts
it's
real
funny
bad.
when we don't specify what year Sonic the Hedgehog was. Like, it's obviously which one, but Sonic the Hedgehog at the bottom.
That's why that name
People
pisses
real
me off
mad.
so much.
It's like, hey, here's this great game that started this franchise.
Yeah.
Here's this shit that almost killed it.
If we ever have Tomb Raider, on this list, we have to specify what Tomb Raider it is. So yeah.
It is
They
important.
do the God of War 2 now.
Yeah. It's a trend that needs to stop, and I hate it.
It's
Yeah.
funnier when it's like a sequel, like Battlefront 2, 2018. You cannot.
Oh, I know.
Like, that doesn't work. But,
Simply unbelievable.
That's a whole other topic.
Yeah, it's fine. But that is the podcast for this week. Well, thank you all for listening. I guess I'll blow through the plugs really fast.
Sure.
So, first things first. Got another show under the umbrella of the podcast that is the Jump Up Supercast. The Jump Up Supercast Game Club. We play a game every 2 weeks. Last week we played a real treat of a video game, Drill Dozer. Listen to that podcast if you would like to hear about just a oft-forgotten gem on the Game Boy Advance. This week, or potentially the week after, we are going to be talking about Mario Tennis Aces, a recent release on the Game Club. Don't do that too often, but we're doing it here because we're all playing it, baby. Except for Saf. Sorry, Saf. Besides that, we have the Jump Up Supercast Twitch channel, the Jump Up Supercast Twitter, which will tell you where to find us on the Jump Up Supercast Twitch channel, where we stream at least 2 days a week, sometimes more, sometimes less, because Brandon and Noah are doing the Co-op Club every Monday. I don't want to have to ask him on air, but Muzamil, can we get Muzamil on the Co-op Club on Monday? What a treat of a thing.
TBD.
No, folks, but you'll still have Brandon and Noah there, so don't you worry your pretty little heads about it. And then
Oh, wait,
Wednesday...
this Monday, though. Maybe.
This Monday.
That's what I'm
Well, that's what he means. Yeah, that's what he means. He wants you to be
You're gonna be
featured
in the
on the
room.
fucking Go-Up Club.
You know, I mean, I'll be here.
You'll be here. That's why I was saying.
This is not breaking promises.
Oh my God! Come on, you'll be in the room.
Early enough, we could totally play
Well,
Well,
okay.
together. The one game that we all like to play.
The one unifying game. And then
It's gonna be Rumble, guys. We're playing fucking Rumble.
Rumbo, and then Rumbo will be
Yeah.
a good co-op club game. But
Exactly.
Wednesday, Brandon streams. Thursday, Noah and Saf will stream Terraria whenever they can. I will sometimes stream on Tuesdays, but all of it's there. All of it you can chat. You can make sure to be aware of by following on Twitter and on Twitch. Get us to 50 followers on Twitch so that we can have more features. Twitch blocks features behind 50 followers, so we got to get there. But that is the podcast for this week. You know what? The final word. We don't really have any cleared person who I think has earned it, but I'm gonna give it to Moose. I'm gonna give it to Moose.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm gonna give it to all. I'm gonna give it to all three of you because you're all in the same
shared
room
final
together.
word.
Well, I specifically had something to say, but but also don't forget though that you can find us on YouTube and SoundCloud and anywhere you can find the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And rate us on iTunes, please.
All Jump Up
You're
Supercast.
slacking,
Yeah,
bro.
I'll jump up Supercast. Well, Brandon, no, if you have anything to say, but I have something specific I'd like to say.
I just want to say that's a lot of money.
No.
I mean, that's my new. You got it, dude. That's my.
Yeah.
You got it.
We're a 90s sitcom now. I just want to say, Brandon, you said something that upset me earlier today.
Oh, good.
We're getting personal.
When you were introducing Sonic and the Secret Rings to the Game Club, you said the Nintendo Wii, and I just want everyone to know that is not the official name of the console. It is Wii. Nintendo makes it. It is the Wii made by Nintendo. It is not the Nintendo Wii. Please.
Yeah, I am sorry. I will repent.
Alright, see you next week, everyone.